Meghan Markle doesn't just use the media. We know this. She understands it, she controls it, and she builds this narrative with it. That's what Meghan's motto is. That is what she needs to try to create the brand that she so desperately needs to be successful. We all know that her Ass Ever brand is failing. It has essentially failed. Everything that she does publicly, the monarchy follows, and her title still carries weight globally, commercially, and culturally. It comes down to control, it comes down to privacy, and most importantly, it comes down to trust. Yes, they know they cannot trust Harry and Meghan. Well, it looks like we have an answer from the palace.
The palace has already made its point, just without the big dramatic announcement. No press conference, no headline-grabbing quotes, just silence paired with those carefully worded insider comments that say a lot without really saying anything. But if you read between the lines, the message is obvious. That door, still closed? Harry's idea for a summer visit to Sandringham sounded simple enough. A quiet family moment, reconnecting with his father, maybe bringing the kids along. But the response came back clear, even without drama. Not a permanent no, but definitely a not right now. And honestly, that calm rejection speaks volumes.
Harry wants to go back to England for the summer. He has made things look like you can see the children if you give me the security, kind of blackmailing the king.
This isn't about schedules or logistics getting in the way. It comes down to one major issue: trust. And right now, that trust just isn't there. Not in an emotional sense, but in a very real, practical way that actually matters. From the palace's point of view, private conversations haven't stayed private. Personal moments and sensitive discussions have ended up on global platforms, seen and dissected by millions. So the hesitation isn't random, it's based on a pattern they can't ignore. And until that changes, that door isn't opening anytime soon. From this point of view, the hesitation around Sandringham isn't about holding on to grudges or refusing to move forward. It's about control, privacy, and one big concern: history repeating itself. This isn't something that gets solved with a quick apology or a simple "let's move on." It goes much deeper than that. What's really at play here is something structural, something the palace feels is impossible to ignore. From their perspective, private family moments haven't stayed private. They've turned into public content, shaped into stories, and used to support a wider narrative about the royal family falling short. And that's where the real tension kicks in. The monarchy has always operated on a very specific formula: stay quiet, stay controlled, and never overshare what happens behind closed doors.
Harry is not doing things the right way, and I think part of that is because he's very desperate. It does sound like it's a reconciliation. He wants to come back. I'm sorry.
That approach isn't slouchy yet. It's been carefully maintained for decades. The less the public sees of internal dynamics, the more stable the image remains. That sense of mystery, it's not a weakness, it's protection. But in recent years, that entire system has been flipped upside down. Private moments became public stories, and personal experiences turned into global talking points almost overnight. Family situations started appearing in formats designed for massive audiences. And once that boundary is crossed, it's incredibly hard to reverse. So now the palace is asking one simple question: what happens next if a Sandringham visit actually happens? And it's not some dramatic or far-fetched fear. It's a practical concern based on what they believe they've already seen happen before. Because looking at past situations, it's not hard to imagine the outcome. Details from the visit could later appear in interviews, documentaries, or public discussions. Conversations, reactions, even small personal moments could be shared, interpreted, and broadcast to a global audience. And that's exactly what they want to avoid. And this is where another key detail comes in. Because internally, the concern isn't the same when it's Harry alone versus Harry and Meghan together, and that difference really matters. There are still signs the father-son connection isn't completely gone. It may be strained and complicated, but it's still there. However, once both Harry and Meghan are involved, the situation shifts quickly. Now the focus turns to how information could be handled, how stories might be shaped, and how narratives could build over time. It's not just about the moment itself, it's about what that moment could become later. From the palace's point of view, there's a belief that private experiences can be turned into public narratives, and that possibility changes how every interaction is approached. And that level of control over storytelling, that's exactly where the risk shoots up. Because once access is given, there's no off switch, no way to fully control how those moments might be retold later. That's why this hesitation isn't emotional or temporary. It's strategic. They're not looking to create fresh private moments that could later turn into something much bigger.
Harry wants to return to the United Kingdom. He is putting things out there very publicly. He is saying that he will come back with the children, and if he can get his security, like you can see the kids, Papa.
This is the part people often miss. Headlines love the family angle, a son reconnecting with his father, kids visiting their grandfather, a peaceful reunion. Sounds great on paper, but behind the scenes, the real question is far more calculated. What happens after the visit ends? Because based on what's already happened, that's the part carrying the most weight. And right now, that answer is exactly why the door stays shut. The message being sent is simple, but it lands hard. If Harry wants even a slight opening, there are conditions. Come see your father. Bring the children. Keep it a real family moment. But here's the catch. Certain dynamics change everything. From the palace's perspective, Harry on his own is one situation. Harry with Meghan is another entirely. And that difference, it's exactly what's keeping things locked right now. So the real question becomes, can Harry even make that call? That's where it gets complicated. There have been small signals, subtle shifts, little hints he still sees himself as a son first. But those moments are minor compared to the bigger picture, because stepping away from that shared path isn't simple, not personally, not publicly, and definitely not financially. Right now, everything is still tightly connected, and there's no clear sign of a major shift anytime soon. So the situation stays exactly where it is, no invitation, no open door, just a message that's been made clear without ever being officially announced. But there is one moment on the horizon that could shake things up: the Invictus Games in Birmingham, 2027. That's the wild card. Harry will be in the UK, no question about it. It's a commitment that rises above all the tension, something meaningful that can't just be brushed aside. And when that moment arrives, the pressure will hit instantly. People will start asking the big questions. Can a private family moment exist alongside a massive public event? Can something be worked out quietly behind the scenes? Could those barriers shift, even a little, between now and then? A lot could change before that point: legal outcomes, security decisions, public opinion, even the direction of their public projects.
Every time Meghan steps into the spotlight, every single time, we remember Princess Diana driving by when she went to Paris, where Princess Diana passed away.
And then there's the king's situation, adding another layer of uncertainty that no one can ignore. But through all of this, one thing stays at the center: trust. And that's not something that magically fixes itself with time. It takes consistent change, clear boundaries, and a different approach over the long run. Right now, that shift just hasn't happened. And that's why the position hasn't moved. From the palace's perspective, the current pattern still leans on sharing personal experiences and turning them into public narratives, and as long as that continues, the risk stays the same. So the answer remains simple, firm, and unchanged. No, the conditions for a different outcome are understood, but they're not being met. For now, it's a standstill, a closed door, a divided family, and a situation years in the making. At some point, a choice will have to be made. The palace already has. Now all eyes are on what Harry decides next. The monarchy has been around for centuries, while plenty of similar systems across Europe completely fell apart. That's not luck, it's strategy. It survived by sticking to one very specific formula: stay visible but never fully exposed, be present but never fully explained. That balance, that's everything. The second it slips, the whole structure starts taking pressure from angles it was never meant to handle. That's why the rule has always been simple: don't over-explain, don't overreact, and definitely don't turn private matters into public storylines. But over the past few years, that line has been crossed more than once. Private experiences went public, personal moments turned into global discussions, and internal dynamics got pulled into the spotlight for everyone to judge. From the palace's point of view, that completely changes the game. It's no longer quiet tradition, it becomes something else entirely, where private life can quickly turn into content. And that's exactly what they're trying to shut down moving forward. This isn't about avoiding responsibility, it's about survival. Because the way things are being presented now doesn't fit the system the monarchy relies on. It's not just exposure, it's a full rewrite of how the story gets told. And that's why the resistance is so strong. Letting that continue would mean losing control over how the institution protects itself, and that's not a risk they're willing to take. At the center of it all is one major issue: the idea that private family moments can be turned into public material, shaped into narratives, and even tied to reputation or business. From their perspective, that doesn't just create tension, it threatens the foundation holding everything up. Because what keeps the monarchy stable isn't just tradition, it's the belief that some things are still private. Once people start assuming every interaction could show up in a documentary or interview, that mystery disappears fast, and when that's gone, it's almost impossible to rebuild. What's left starts to feel less like a historic institution and more like a public-facing family drama, attention-grabbing, sure, but not built to last. And that's why this situation goes far beyond just two individuals. From the palace's point of view, this isn't just about what's happened, it's about the principle behind it all. The real issue is the idea that private family life could be turned into public storytelling, and the decision now is simple: don't create new chances for that to keep happening. There's also a generational factor in play, and it matters more than people think. William's stance on this is especially firm, and that's no accident. He's thinking long-term, shaping what the future of the monarchy should look like. And his model is clear: be visible, but protect private life. Show up, but don't overshare. You can already see it in how things are handled: carefully chosen appearances, controlled visibility, and only small natural glimpses into family life. Nothing feels constant, nothing feels overexposed, and that's intentional. Because the alternative? Constant access, where every detail becomes part of an ongoing public narrative. And that's exactly what's being avoided. The future they're protecting is one where privacy isn't slowly given away, it's actively defended. Anything that threatens that structure is taken seriously. So when it comes to the Sandringham question, the answer stays the same: no, not out of emotion, but out of long-term strategy. But that raises the obvious question: what would need to change? The conditions are actually pretty clear. First, there would have to be a real, consistent shift in behavior over time, not just promises, but actions showing that private moments stay private. Second, trust would need to be rebuilt day by step, through consistency and by keeping things out of the public eye. Trust in a situation like this doesn't come back overnight, it has to be earned, step by step. And third, there would need to be a visible gap between real family connection and public storytelling. Not a total split, but enough to show that private moments wouldn't later be folded into a bigger public narrative. And that's where this gets especially tricky. Right now, everything is tightly connected: public image, storytelling, and personal experience all feed into each other. So meeting those conditions wouldn't take a small adjustment, it would take a major shift. And so far, that shift hasn't happened. Until it does, nothing really changes. In fact, the pressure to create new material may be getting even stronger, which makes the whole situation messier. Because the demand for content can crash straight into the need for privacy, and that creates a cycle that's hard to escape. More pressure leads to more sharing leads to less trust, and less trust leads to fewer chances for private access. Not exactly a great feedback loop. That's why the Sandringham request can be seen in two very different ways. On one side, it looks like an effort to reopen the connection, rebuild access, and reset the relationship. On the other, from the palace's perspective, it also risks restarting the exact pattern they're trying to stop. So the answer stays the same. Not forever, maybe, but right now, no, because the current conditions just don't support a different outcome. And while there are real human emotions here, family ties, missed moments, the wish to reconnect, they're being weighed against long-term stability. Right now, the palace sees the risk as greater than the reward, and that leaves Harry facing a much bigger choice than just whether to visit. Now, everything comes down to what happens next, and more importantly, the gap between what's said publicly and what actually happens over time. That gap, that's where the future of this whole story is being decided. Because this didn't just appear out of nowhere, it's been building in stages, each one slowly pulling things further apart. It all kicked off in early 2020, the announcement, the shock, the negotiations, and that crucial Sandringham meeting where the rules were being set. Back then, there was still a sense that something workable could be figured out. A middle ground, maybe, where connection stayed intact while change happened. Then came phase 2, and that's where things took a sharp turn. This was the era of private experiences turning into public narratives. Big interviews, major projects, detailed stories reaching global audiences. That's when the trust gap really started to form. And it wasn't just one moment, it was a series of moves that stacked up fast. And this isn't ancient history either, it's recent enough that the impact is still fresh and shaping everything we're seeing now. Which brings us to where things stand today, the consequences phase. This is where all those earlier decisions are playing out in real time. Projects slowing down, major deals shifting, and the family connection still not repaired. Everything now reflects what came before. And now, it looks like there's an attempt to move into a fourth phase, a reset. A chance for some level of reconnection, where things could stabilize and family ties might partially rebuild. But here's the catch, the palace hasn't signed off on that shift. Not because reconnection is off the table, but because the conditions needed to make it work still aren't there. And until they are, nothing moves. Trust, privacy, and consistent behavior, that's the missing trio right now. And until those pieces show up, both sides are basically stuck in a waiting game. One side is waiting for an invitation. The other is waiting for proof that things would actually be different this time. And while that standoff drags on, the real impact hits everyone involved. A father wanting to see his grandchildren, kids growing up without that bond, and a son dealing with distance from the family he once had. It's all sitting in this awkward, unresolved space. The reality? Situations like this don't get fixed overnight. History shows even royal families take years to work through breaks like this, and sometimes they never fully do. Some relationships stay complicated for decades, slowly evolving but never quite going back to what they were. That's why the ending here is still wide open. There are real forces pulling toward reconnection time, family ties, reflection, changing circumstances. But just as strong are the forces pulling the other way, lack of trust, repeated patterns, and constant pressure that makes change tough. And right now, the path forward isn't clear. What is clear? The current approach isn't working. The Sandringham proposal, as it stands, isn't the fix, and that message has already been delivered loud and clear without ever being said outright. So the next move matters more than anything, and it won't come from headlines or public statements, it comes from consistent actions over time. That's the only thing that can actually shift perception. The big question is whether that change will happen, and whether everything around Harry even allows it to happen, because timing matters. Opportunities don't stay open forever. The longer things stay stuck, the harder they are to move later. Right now, everything sits in that narrow space, not open, but not permanently closed either. And what happens next? That all comes down to the choices made from here. So what do you make of all this? Is this just a temporary pause, or are we watching a deeper shift that's been building for years? Because when you look at the full story, it's not just about one moment, it's about patterns, decisions, and how those decisions echo over time. And it really makes you wonder, can trust like this ever fully come back once it's been tested so publicly? Or does it slowly change into something else entirely? I really want to hear your take on this, so drop your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks for watching. I appreciate you being here. If you enjoyed this, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Crownell for more updates like this. And stick around, there's plenty more stories waiting for you right here on the channel. Crownell keeps you in the know, so see you next time.